Alright. We're recording?
Do this. Yeah, we're recording live. Live for the Red Lake Nation. Seven Clans Casino, Warrior Restaurant with the very handsome Bobby Wilson.
Hello and welcome to Dinner and a Movie starring John Roberts and Bobby Wilson.
I'm your host. Some very delicious Manoman Naboob, as we say in the Ojibwe language.
Or as we say in the Dakota language, that stuff that we used to eat until the Ojibwe stole it from us.
Excellent point. Point taken. So, why don't you just give a little description of what your plans are around Red Lake, how long you can be around?
Oh, yeah. I'm in Red Lake for 2 weeks, teaching at the middle school, doing poetry this week. Last week we painted a mural in the school, which was a lot of fun, man. I gotta say, like, I walked around Red Lake a little bit, and there's a lot of art around here. And in the school, there's a ton of it. And it's been done over the years. So I'm pretty excited to be a part of that, you know, and to have the work that I could help the students create stand up next to a lot of this other great body of work. Mm-hmm. And hopefully it'll be there for a long time. I told the kids, you know, like, this stuff, like, it's going to be there for a while. And you're going to be able, maybe someday, your kids or your nieces and nephews are going to go in there and you're going to be able to tell them, you know, I worked on that and, you know, I was there for that. So I thought that was pretty cool. There's a lot of good folks around here that grew up here and, you know, they went to that school and now their kids go to that school. And so it's pretty awesome, I think. But other than that, you know, just hanging out, watching my bro get pulled over on Facebook.
3 times this weekend already. Rough out there, man.
Yeah. You need to quit flipping the cops off when they drive by you.
I just watched Straight Outta Compton, so that's why I thought it is. Straight Outta Compton.
Oh, man. Isn't that a trip? Were you into NWA when you were a kid?
I wasn't. I didn't have cable TV when I was growing up. I had 3 channels. ABC, NBC, and then we got WGN after a while, and so I was out of the loop.
Yeah, I feel that.
My only experience with that was magazines, newspapers. Other than that, I'm living in the woods, man. Just all the good stuff. So why don't you give a background on how you became part of the 1491s and how all that started?
Oh, yeah, that. Well, I guess it was probably 7 years ago now. I was in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I seen this white guy, and he was hanging out with this Indian guy with a big old beard, and that was Ryan Redcorn and Sterling Harjo. And we had some mutual friends. So I talked to the white guy because he's non-threatening, you know.
Yeah.
I thought it would be a good way to get in there. Turns out he was Indian. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
At least I think. It's still a point of contention. We're not sure.
Still waiting on a blood test?
Yep. Still waiting on that genealogy to come back. So, yeah, I don't know, man. We hung out. And then, you know, what's funny is we just kind of geeked out about art all day. And then later that night, we all went to a concert. We seen Gary Farmer and the Troublemakers, yeah, at the VFW there. And it was pretty sweet. There was a lot of Indian bands that were playing and rocking out. It was real eclectic. There was like some rap, some folk music, some rock music, stuff like that. And then afterwards, like I think we were out, oh man, probably till like 2 or 3 in the morning. And then we came back to Ryan's hotel. At least I thought it was Ryan's hotel. Turned out it was Sterling's hotel. He was the only one that had been paid to come down to show one of his movies. And so they gave him this hotel, but all of his friends used his 1-bed hotel room to crash. And so when we walked in there, it was just like people all over the place. There's like a woman on the couch who's a good friend of mine now, just pillows piled on top of her. She had like every pillow except for one that was on the bed. No, two, because I got a pillow. And then there's a woman and a guy on the floor, hunched up, you know, just in the position. And then Ryan Redcorn was in the bed, so I climbed into bed with him. Because he looked lonely.
Yeah.
He was the only one sleeping in his underwear, too. So, I'm laying there, and then the door busts open, probably like 4 or 5 a.m. And it's just this big outline with this big hat. And I heard, oh, fuck this. It was Sterling. And he came up, right up to Ryan Redcorn, open hand, slapped him on the belly, said, scoot the fuck over, you're sleeping, bitch. And then they didn't just go to sleep, they like sat there and talked to each other like...
Pillow talk?
Yeah, just face to face, chatting it up. Yep. I gotta admit though, I was a little spoon that night because I was afraid to face them, so I just like stuck my butt at them and like kind of that, you know, go ahead kind of way.
Willing if that's what it takes.
Yeah, if that's what it takes. I said just not the face.
Never the face, never. You're a gentleman.
I have rules like Pretty Woman, you know? But anyway, fuck man. Inhale some of that. So I don't know what it is, but I mean, actually I do know now, being close friends with Redcorn for years, he invited me to his wedding, you know, and so we drove down and we became real good friends. And we did this video in Minnesota though, when him and Sterling came up, and that was the Wolfpack auditions. Now they had come up with that idea with Dallas Goldtooth and Migazy Pensino, who both grew up here, you know, in Bemidji. And they didn't have a place to shoot, and so Dallas called me up and asked me if I knew anywhere that we could just film. And I was painting these murals at Little Earth projects down in South Minneapolis. Yeah, you're a Little Earth kid. That's why you're getting pulled over.
That's what it is. They can smell it on me.
Oh God. So I was painting murals down there for a couple of years in a row, and I had keys to the building. So I said, you can use this office that I stashed my paint at, and I'm painting there. So that's where we did it. You know what was messed up though is that there was a Sunday school going on in the other room. I guess they rented out to a church on Sunday. And so there are all these little Christian kids just running around, and we showed up dressed up like we are in that Wolfpack audition. It's just like practically naked, wearing feathers and turf shells over our pajoggins. And that was where the magic happened. That was my involvement. And I've been there ever since. Yeah.
So how did they come up with the name 1491? So whose big idea was that?
You know, I think I'm gonna blame Ryan Redcorn for that.
Yeah.
Now, I gotta tell you, sometimes I really hate that name because people are bad with numbers, generally. Like if you're shitty at math like me, you don't remember numbers that well. So people always call us the 1941s, the 1492s, the 1876s. It's just never changes. It always changes. They never get it right. It's usually 1942 for some reason. They're just big World War II fans, I guess.
That's what it is. You know, when I started my video company, I just named it after the year I graduated high school and the name of my team. So 94 Warriors is what we are.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Simple enough.
Yeah. It's like the crazy 88s from
Yeah, like
Bill.
that.
There's not 88 of them, it just sounds cool.
It just sounds cool. I don't know, is that the apostrophe you put up when you just put the number? of the year, like dash or apostrophe, right?
The apostrophe is what you're thinking.
Yeah.
But we don't use an apostrophe. And this was my mistake. I did it a few times, and then I got told you can't do that because it means something else then. Like it's possessive. That means like this is the fourth, like this belongs to the 1491s kind of thing.
Ah, okay.
That's the best way I can explain it.
Well,
Yeah.
stick to the 94.
Yeah, the 94.
There's not 94 of us. It just sounds cooler. So I used to get that a lot. There's not 94 of you there. My class had like 30 graduates. So. But yeah. Well, yeah. So before you're originally an artist, and then you became a performer, or you always been a performer? Or?
Yeah, I guess so. I didn't really know what I wanted to do until I started hanging out with these guys. Kind of gave me some direction. I did all sorts of shit, I guess. I mean, I did mostly graffiti stuff for a long time. Spent some time in a county group home for it. I got sentenced to 2 years and $50,000 when I was a teenager. So I stayed in this boys' home until I was 18 from there. And then I just kind of stayed on couches until I got an apartment, a real job in an apartment. So, but before that, we were kind of bouncing around in shelters anyway,
Yeah.
down in the cities. So, I was born and raised in the Twin Cities, born in a house in South Minneapolis, spent most of my teenage years in the east side of St. Paul. Yeah. You ever been to east side?
I think my brother-in-law lives east side.
Yeah.
St. Paul. Jordan Avenue, right around that area.
Mm.
It's like White
By White Bear Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right around that area.
Yeah. Yeah. East side's rugged. Well,
Maybe
I think it's still rugged.
Yeah.
Yeah. White Bear Lake's a little nicer.
Okay.
It's on the edge. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, it's a pretty nice neighborhood.
Yeah.
Where I went. So you guys do pretty much, is it, how would you explain like performance art, or how do you, skits?
Yeah. I guess it's skits.
Skits, yeah.
Like it's not exactly what you do. You know, we're not real. We don't do stand up. That's a completely different skill set.
Yeah.
That's tougher in my opinion. It's really easy to do skits, I think. Because you get all this time beforehand. I mean, you know, stand up, you get all this time beforehand to write shit and come up with it and get up on stage. But man, like, I think it's tough because you're out there alone. We get at least like a safety net.
Yeah.
There's a group of 5 guys. We do performances of
feed
minimum
off
of
each
3.
other.
Yeah, like we go back and forth. And if somebody fucks up a joke,
Yeah.
then the other guy can pick it up. And, you know, people don't even notice unless they were in on the process. So it's a little bit easier, in my opinion. But, I mean, we've been talking a lot about shit with that, like comedy, you know, because I think a lot of people get cheap laughs when they're in sketch comedy like we are. And we've been noticing when we cop out, like we really criticize each other a lot before we do a show, or like after the show, what worked and what didn't. And a lot of it is in the writing and a lot of it's in the performance, but when you do get like a cheap laugh, I've seen it a lot now. Like all you gotta do is just start humping something and everybody laughs. And that's cheap, you know? I mean, I laugh too when I see somebody doing something suggestive or sexual like that, but it just doesn't take any thought or creativity, you know? And I think that that's gotta be kind of annoying for people who really think about their stuff and really write it, like write their observations down, you know? And so we're trying really hard to step it up a lot, you know? And we talk to other people, like, I really look up to Ryan McMahon's work, you know? Because that guy, he's been doing it for a long time. He really takes it seriously. And I know that he likes to try to encourage people to do research at least, like look at what other comedians have done. You know, he's read like every famous comedian's autobiography and stuff like that. And he's really put in a shitload of work. And so I think when you go up and you get cheap laughs, and because you know you can, it kind of undermines all that hard work that all you other guys do. Like even you and Rob Fairbanks taking your road trip, taking all these big steps. That's tough, man.
Yeah.
That's tough stuff. And then when people are trying to make it cheap, it just does it for everybody. It affects everybody, I think it does at least. So.
That's a good way of putting that, because I remember I did a show with a guy at a comedy club, and he had like, got on stage, he sounded like he was a special needs type guy, you know,
Yeah.
some funny voice where it sounded like he was disabled. And he come off, he was just fine. He was, you know, he got laughs off of being sounded like he was disabled, and that kind of bugged me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's, you know, that's what's acceptable sometimes in some spots, but I didn't like that. That kind of pissed me off. I was like, man, I don't think I want to do comedy anymore if people are gonna do stuff like that. And
Yeah.
work at it, I suppose.
Right. Well, that's why you have to do comedy though, because you're gonna work at it, because you know that that's cheap. That's like a cop out. I don't know. Everybody went to school with that kid though, you know.
Yeah.
I always think back to like who were the funny kids in school and how did that change over time? When I was a kid, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective came out, and all the kids who wanted to be funny would just try to be Ace Ventura all fucking year. And I remember even as a kid, I hated it. Even though I loved the movie when I was little, I just hated it because of all my little friends just doing Ace Ventura quotes. Because it's cheap. No. But even that guy, Jim Carrey, like if you look at his career, you got like In Living Color. I guess that's skit comedy, but you know, he did a lot of really stupid skits back in the day for cheap laughs. It wasn't really as well thought. And over time, stuff develops. I don't know. I guess it's always up and down, though. You know, he's not like the funniest dude on the planet, but you know, it's definitely changed a shitload from that kind of stuff and like The Mask to a lot of the newer work. God, what's the last thing that you've seen Jim Carrey in, though? Yeah, it's tough.
The Penguin movie, what is that? Mr. Popper's Penguins or something?
You seen that? Oh, you got kids.
I got kids, yeah.
Yeah, you got kids. I can't see movies like that because I don't have kids. If I walk in that theater by myself, I'm like, I look like a fucking freak.
Yeah, you look like a perv or
Yeah.
something.
What's that guy doing here? I keep my hands where everyone can see them.
So, you know, looking towards the future, the next step. So you guys get any offers for like movies or acting or?
Yeah. We've had a few offers now for different things. So one big one that we really negotiated for a while. We talked to this production company out of New York about developing a TV show, and we just couldn't come to terms, you know. And here's the thing: is like I feel really fortunate to be a part of this group in the way that I am, because if I did this shit by myself, I would have just been like, oh yeah, that sounds good. Oh yeah, we can do that, and then let's do this, you know, because I don't know shit about it. But we got a guy who used to write for ABC Disney that knows his shit. We got a guy that has produced several movies that have toured all over the world, are available on Netflix, you know, and they know that aspect. They know that business. Yeah. And so because of these two guys, I think that we're in really good hands, and I really trust a lot of their decision making on this kind of stuff. Obviously, it's something that I want to do 100% for. I mean, at the moment, comedy and art is what I do for a living. But I mean, it's not buying me a house, you know. I still go to IHS because I can't afford health insurance, you know. And so it's tough sometimes, you know, work like trying to scrape by just on doing that. Luckily, I have a really supportive wife, though, too. But anyways, we're talking to this company, and they want to own the show. They want to just be the owners of the show.
Yeah.
And in addition, they also want to be the creative direction of the show. And so it just was a lot of arguments. It was this white guy who, he wanted this show where Indian guys buy a cul-de-sac in a suburb, a cul-de-sac of houses, and because they're all Indian guys, they turned it into tribal land, and so it's its own little reservation. And he thought it would be funny, and these were cheap jokes to us too when we talked about it. He wanted to do like a ceremony store, like a peyote dispensary, and like a powwow thing, or it was like all this shit that he could think of. There's like a casino in there, and it was just like this dude said all this racist shit basically. It was like, this is what I know about Indians, and this is what should be in that cul-de-sac, and he thought it was hilarious. And we had already written a completely different idea than that. And so as a group, we told him, don't like those ideas, let's do this instead. And so we would come to an agreement at the end of the conversation, and then we'd talk in a week. And when he'd get on the phone, he'd say, okay, so last time we talked, we agreed that we were gonna do the suburb idea that I had. And we said, no, we didn't agree on that. We all said no to that. And so it just kept on going back and forth like that. And we basically, after about a month or two, said no, we'll pass on this. So, and that's good, it's for the better.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of different Native artists who came from a different generation who have been through shit like that, where they didn't really know what was going on, and they end up they don't own their work, and somebody else does. And so once they're done, and there's no native TV show, Yeah, exactly, no control. And it's always somebody else. It's usually a white guy, from my experience, who has this idea of who Indians are, and that's what he wants the show to be. But people say stuff like, Native Americans, I can't sell that. I can't sell what you guys are doing. And I think that's bullshit, man. It's total bullshit. Because that whole scene is changing what people want to see. People want to see something new. They want to be entertained. That's why they're watching TV in the first place. Yeah. But we keep sticking to these same old formats. And it's funny because the way that I see things on TV, I'm always counting, I don't count the white people because there's too many of them at one time. I count how many aren't white. And it's usually one or two or three, unless it's specifically about a different race. If it's an Asian show, then it's all Asian. If it's a black show, it's all black. But normal TV is all white.
Yeah.
I was watching Netflix. You watched that Aziz Ansari show?
Mm-hmm.
It's my new favorite show.
Yeah, I really liked it.
None.
Yeah, that show was funny.
Yeah, he was talking about how all races are represented in his show, and how it wasn't mainstream. Didn't want to see an Indian guy with a white woman or any other kind of race like that, and so that's why his show is working where it is.
Yeah.
People see different things, and they're starting to understand that it is acceptable now.
Yeah, that's important work, man. I mean, I would have rather seen our kind of Indian in that show, but
see, a lot of it, it's just people don't realize, so many states don't have reservations in there, and they don't think Indians are real.
Yeah.
Native Americans are gone, I suppose.
Well, that's because they keep putting shit out like Peter Pan. Let that fucking show die, for God's sake. I think a lot of people can agree that it's out of date, it's totally racist, but a lot of people grew up with that shit, with that show, that movie, especially the Disney one. And that new joint, I mean, fuck. Yeah, just let it die. Who cares anymore? The last good thing that came out of Peter Pan was the movie Hook. It's my opinion. That's the only joint I'll ever watch.
Dustin Hoffman killed in that one.
Killed! Literally killed Rufio. That's what I liked about that shit though, man. Rufio. I was like, that dude's Indian when I was a kid. And that's like the boss. That dude was like #1 in the whole movie. And so, I mean, I'm pretty sure he's not native. Now I get older, I'm like, he's ethnically ambiguous.
Yeah.
He's kind of got that medium brown, a little on the darker side.
Like a
De Niro, Pacino type where he could play
Yeah, he could totally play a Cuban.
Cuban or Irish. I don't know, that's pretty much all I got. Just want to thank you for your time.
Yeah,
You are
appreciate you,
you are
brother.
doing very good work. You're very come working with these kids up here. They need that.
Yeah, well, I need it too, man. This is good shit. Talented kids around here too.
Do you have your website or anything you wanna?
No, nah. Find us on Facebook, the 1491s.
Not 1942s,
Not 1824s,
1776s.
1491S. Miigwech,
Miigwech.
Pajogin, Jeed. G'd up from the feet up.
G'd up from the feet up. I like that one. All right, we'll see how that.